hope you're ready for this.
Gonna be fun.
You will not stand in my way.
Frostborn. Hunger. This pleases me.
I do not fear you, mortal.
Your soul shall be mine.
Don't make me laugh.
Needs a brew? Oh, I do. Feel a shredding, baby. Let the battle begin.
So hello and welcome to the 71st episode of the Nexus Trolls, a podcast all about Heroes of the Storm, part of the Trolls.gg Entertainment Network. I'm your host, Daz, and I'm joined today, as always, by Mystic, and I can almost say, as always, by Roz, because Roz, you've been on, I think, 3 or 4 times in the past, 7 or 8 episodes, so you're becoming more regular here than LiQuiud. Welcome back to the show, Roz. So what do you guys been up to? You know what I've been spending a lot of time doing, and it's probably one of the reasons I put this in the show notes here too, is I've been spending a lot of time brawling over the past couple weeks. I don't know why. ARAM and Mage Wars are kind of like my guilty pleasures, but I've been having a lot of fun playing those modes. Have you guys done your placements at all? What have you been up to in Euros?
Yeah, I finally hopped back into Hero League for the first time. I took a season break in the hopes that all the craziness of last season would work its way out, and it's actually been going pretty good. Got a 56% win rate. Most of that's being carried on support heroes, so actually had a pretty good few days. The games that go well, everybody's talking. The games that go poorly, nobody's talking, or saying really bad things to each other. So kind of funny how that works.
And ironically, that's one of the things we're going to be talking about today too on our show. We've got something we're going to be talking about, just the toxicity in Hero League and how it's changed with the the advent of voice chat being more prevalent. How about you, Mystic? Are you going to be doing any of your placements this season?
I mean, I only did some of the placements with team members last season. I don't know if I'm going to be playing Hero League, mostly due to time constraints more than anything. And I think voice chat, though, is a really nice addition to the game. Well,
I saw you online last night playing with your Chair League team. Chair League starting up very shortly. Are you guys all ready for it?
Yeah. We're as ready as we'll ever be, right?
You have some more scrims to practice up, eh?
Yeah.
Well, we won't belabor these points. We'll just jump right into the show. But before we do, we want to thank our patrons over at patreon.com/trollsgg. If you're looking for a way to support the show, you can always do so over there. We've got a bunch of new stretch goals. If you donate enough per week, you become a chieftain, and we give you a shout-out at the end of every show. Also, the Troll of the Week this week is True Mr. Fu. True Mr. Fu was one of the first people to sign up for Bush League, which we're going to be promoting in a second in the news segment, but also he's a fan of the show as well, so we just want to give a shout out to True Mr. Fu for being our Troll of the Week. And that being said, let's jump into the news, shall we?
Someday, this will make a great story.
Again, because we're doing the format we did last week, the Pardon The Interruption style format, we're going to keep most of our news, the heavier stuff, into the actual Trolling the Nexus or Pardon The Interruption segments, whatever you want to call it. But one thing we do want to talk about quickly is that Bush League is really just around the corner now. We're going to be starting on April 2nd, and we've actually got enough people for 4 teams now. We only need a few more people actually to make our 6 teams for this beer league that we're doing along with the guys from Gankbush Squad. So if you're interested, shoot us an email at TheNexusTrolls@trolls.gg. You can also actually go to trolls.gg/bush-league as well to sign up there directly. And we're going to be doing it Monday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is going to be the first game. The second game is going to be 9:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's only one game. There's no practices, no scrims, anything like that. It's a true beer league, guys. If you're interested in playing with us, you're going to be playing with people from the shows on the Nexus Trolls or Troll and HGC, as well as Gankbush Squad. Definitely sign up and give it a go, because it'll be a fun time on those Monday nights, guys. But that being said, let's just jump into it. And I've been playing around with bumpers for this new Trolling the Nexus segment, and I still haven't settled on one. I think I played it last time, and I saw Roz and Mystic kind of cringe when I played it. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll hold off on that bumper, and we'll just spend some time in the incubator and come up with a good one. So anyways, now it's time to troll the Nexus. If you watched our show last week, you would have seen this new segment, or listened to it, where we're doing a quote-unquote Pardon the Interruption style episode. We've got 8 topics. We're going to be talking about each one for 5 minutes. Once our time is up, we'll just move on to the next topic, kind of doing this like shotgun style show where we cover all the topics as fast as we can, getting all our important points in as quickly as possible. And it leads to like a good, like you got to get your good points in quickly, and you got to try and take over the mic and wrestle it away from the other guys. So we had some positive feedback. We had some people have good critiques as well about the format from last week, and we're going to be taking those into consideration going forward. We got some ideas that we're going to tweak this format a little bit going forward as well. Okay, so the first topic is Eastern Clash. Now, the Western Clash was amazing. It was one of the most exciting LAN tournaments we've had in a long time. Roz, channeling his inner LiQuiD, watched every single game from the Western Clash. Now we're moving on to the Eastern Clash, which starts this weekend. Roz, are you going to be watching the Eastern Clash? What do you expect to come out of this? Is it going to be as good as the Western Clash was?
Well, I may not get to watch as many games as I did for the Western Clash because I'll be on a trip this weekend with my students, so it'd be hard to get to Twitch. But I don't think that this clash will be as exciting as the Western Clash because I think the differences between China and Korea are a lot more vast, at least right now, than they are between EU and North America. Super Perfect Team from China is probably going to have the best chance against Korea, but even then, China's kind of a weird animal in the HGC. We never really know how they're going to perform in a LAN environment.
They always have visa issues, right? It's so hard to actually get the full team there at tournaments to see how they'd actually perform in those kind of situations. How do you think China would stack up against the West? Like, obviously, Korea is a little bit of a cut above. I mean, arguably, the EU is kind of pretty close to them as well. But where are we placing China in the pecking order here?
I think at least Tempo Storm and maybe Team 12 are ahead of just about every Chinese team right now. It was kind of like that last year, I think, as well. You could see that at BlizzCon. They kind of, again, like I said, China's always weird. What I am excited to see at the Western Clash or at the Eastern Clash is kind of the rematches, if they happen, between Ballistics and KSV. I was going to say MVP. They're KSV now. And who'd I say? Ballistics, Tempest, and KSV. Tempest has been surprising everybody in Korea because they had some roster changes at the end of last year, and now this year they 3-1'd Ballistics, who won BlizzCon 2 years ago, and then 3-0'd MVP, which is now KSV, who won BlizzCon last year. So they've made the right changes, and they haven't lost a single match in Phase 1. So they're like the Dignitas of the East right now.
So what happened to KSV or MVP Black? I mean, they were such a dominant force come BlizzCon last year. Now they've seemed to have not dropped off the map, but lost their stranglehold on the scene.
I mean, they look just as good. They've messed around with some role swaps, taking Rich out of the off-tank solo lane role, and they're going to move him over to the carry role, which I think is going to be good for them because he's one of the best flex players in the world. So he can do that just fine. The games in Korea are nothing like the games in EU. If you were to watch the Eastern Clash, you're not going to see anything remotely similar to what it was like at the Western Clash. The mechanical skill of the Korean teams, especially KSV, they will just team fight until you are bleeding out your nose. And so there's all kinds of different expectations. It's hard to draw comparisons across the two regions because they're just playing two different games.
Yeah, and it's always interesting when you see those actually kind of clash in the international events where the East meets West too, which are always the international tournaments that I'm excited to watch as well, to see how everyone stacks up on the true international stage. Because the problem with this Eastern Clash, Western Clash stuff is that you don't get to see that mixing until later in this season. So, Mystic, what do you expect to see out of the Eastern Clash here? Are you going to be watching a lot of these games?
I'm going to try to catch a few. I mean, I think most likely it's going to go as, like Roz said, like Korea is a very strong region, and China, I mean, has showed up here and there. They have a really weird meta sometimes that they use, so that might shake things up a little bit. But I think Korea is really gonna just take it.
Is Rich still the top of the pile here? I mean, you would ask any pro a year ago, and you'd say who's the best player out there in the world. They would have said Rich, but I mean, he's not carrying his team to victory like he was, several months ago.
I think he's still up there. Like I said, they're still tweaking the format of the team. Even Fnatic's going through that a little bit. So
Job's done.
They'll figure it out.
All right. Next on the docket, we've got Space Age is over. If you haven't heard the news, Spacestation Gaming has withdrawn its sponsorship. They actually gave ownership back to the team, which is kind of cool. If you didn't know about how ownership rules work, the orgs now will own teams, own the spot, and if the spot ever needs to get sold or whatever, that it's the org that would sell it and retain the rights to the spot, not the team members themselves. There are some exceptions to this because when they implemented this, the initial team ownership, unless it was grandfathered in by a top tier org, actually went to the players who had to form an organization to own the spot. You've got that kind of situation with old Roll 12, but or Team 12, but now or Roll 20, Team 12, whatever you want to call them now. But Spacestation Gaming just handed it back. They didn't even sell the ownership rights to the spot to anyone. This kind of is interesting whenever you see these shuffles happen with orgs. We saw Roll20 withdraw from the scene as well, and it's almost like there's this kind of instability in the HOTS pro scene that's has a lot of people concerned. Are you guys nearly as concerned as everybody else? Roz, I guess we can start with you on this one since you're the esports guy.
Okay. Trent put out a good video last week on his YouTube series talking about why relegation is bad for esports organizations. And I think it's good in that it gets the best teams into the league, and it's good for Open Division. I mean, just look at Zealots and what they did, but they're also a super niche case, in reality, if you're the bottom two teams in the professional season or in the professional league, you run the risk of going to the Crucible and losing out to an Open Division team, and then the team that you are putting money into, the salaries that you are putting into, they're not professional players anymore, and now they're down into the Open Division. That really sucks, and it's not worth the investment for companies. Now, I don't know if that's specifically what happened. I haven't really seen any information given out from Space Station as to why they dropped the sponsorship. They just kind of did it. But I would take I would bet that that's part of the reason, because Space Station hasn't, while they did have an amazing victory over Team Freedom, they haven't really performed all that well in this first half. Though I would expect, sponsorships to maybe leave after the Crucible or after the mid-season Brawl. I thought it was maybe a little early, considering that we've only been through the first part of Phase 1. But yeah, like Trent said, it's kind of a weird environment for esport organizations to invest in professional HGC, and it's kind of sad.
Are you a big fan of getting rid of relegation? I know, like you mentioned, Trent Murray in Entry Level Esports talked about this in depth last week in his video series. But it seems that relegation is something that can easily scare away sponsors. If you've got someone who wants to make a long-term investment in a team, if it was me, I'd be concerned if you might be a good team this year, but next year you're bottom two, you go into the Open Division, you've basically lost your spot. That investment that you've been making, you've got to now trudge through Open Division to come back in through the Crucible in order to come back in and get that exposure that you're looking for. I know there's probably a lot of clauses which work, the sponsorship probably reduces in value if you go into Open Division and such. I'm not aware or privy to any of these contracts that these sponsors have in place, but relegation, is this something that should just go the way of the dodo? It doesn't seem to be helping anyone, really.
A lot has to happen in order for relegation to go away. In order for us to even consider going to a franchise model, there has to be a huge change in mindset from Blizzard into how they're supporting the game and how they're publicizing it, because it's you have to think about it. Here's the Storm is a game for Blizzard fans, and that's already, a certain percentage of the population, and then it's a percentage of the population within that. It's a cross section of Blizzard fans, and so like you've got to find a way to advertise it to people outside of the Blizzard fandom. Cross promotionals, with Overwatch and just doing more. Overwatch is a huge success in terms of media attention because they have put a lot of money into making sure everyone knows what that game is. I don't think that they've done the same with Heroes of the Storm.
No, and I mean, Overwatch is the new hotness. It's a newer game and everything, whereas Here's the Storm, let's be honest, has been around for 2-3 years. I'm losing track now, but it's not like it's going to be like an overnight success all of a sudden.
Job's done.
It's probably gone through what they've considered like to be that kind of honeymoon period. Now we're getting into like the par for the course. So hopefully we'll see some future push in the HGC realm, maybe even getting real relegation. Seems like they're going more ownership friendly with every season, but I guess these changes have to happen slowly. Okay, next topic. We've got Maiev still OP. Maiev still has a really high win rate, 53.4% on hot slogs last time I checked, even after being nerfed several times since she came out. We'll pass the ball to Mystic here to start off, but is Maiev still OP? She's getting banned 4 times more than any other hero in the game currently.
Honestly, I think people are learning how to deal with her, but they just don't want to because everybody... I mean, I think it's more of like the bandwagon effect there. I think that she's strong, but she's not like super strong that you can't deal with her. I think that people are just banning her and being like, oh, I mean, she's still like super strong and no one can deal with her, so we're just not going to deal with it. I mean, you could do that, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't think she's as strong as people think that she is, but she is like not. Like, she's not horrible.
It almost feels like people just ban her because they don't know what else to ban. They don't want to make everyone else salty on their team. It's the old, Garrosh first ban, Genji, Hanzo. We've seen it before, through the different months and everything. It's just whoever is the consensus first ban, you just ban them, and then you don't have to worry about either dealing with them or dealing with teammates getting mad that you didn't ban them in the first place. But what is it about Maiev? I mean, in Western Clash, she was a popular pick ban hero there as well. Maybe there's something to it. Maybe it's not just the fact that you were just trying to learn to play around her. Maybe she still actually is just that strong. How about you, Roz?
I mean,
what do you? Okay, go ahead, Mystic. No, go ahead, Mystic.
Okay, I was just gonna say the pull itself is like very strong because the counterplay to that is you literally move with her, right? But that's the whole point of the pull in the first place, right? Because you grab them and then the tether goes and you either get pulled to her or you move with her, don't get pulled, but you're still getting pulled in the direction that she wants to go.
So what is the counterplay? Do you just pick heroes that can break the tether with some sort of like unstoppable effect?
Either that or movement, like displacement abilities where you move her. Because like, let's just say you're Garrosh and you get tethered, you can just throw her in the direction that you want to go, and then she moves the other way, or you get pulled in the direction that you want to go.
What are your thoughts, Roz? You think Maiev is OP or what? Oh, have you muted your mic?
Yes, sorry. Yeah, I don't think she's necessarily OP. I think she's kind of got the Garrosh effect from when he first came out, and everyone was just banning him, and no one really put in the thought process to let him through so that they can learn how to counterplay. And Garrosh actually is really easy to counter around. You just don't get up in his face like a dum-dum. Maiev is a little harder for all the reasons that Mystic was saying, but she might eventually actually get the same treatment that Garrosh did. Maybe a core part of her kit will get adjusted because people refuse to adjust themselves to it. Who knows? But actually, my favorite metas are like when there is really one OP hero, because it makes the drafts a lot cleaner. If you don't have the ban and someone else does, you can at least rely on the fact that they won't make a mistake because because they will ban the right thing.
Really? You like the OP bans? I always like you ban for the map or or you ban what you think might counter the comp that you're coming up with. It feels more strategic, more interesting that way. I guess, like you said, you got to worry about the dum-dums, but at least it makes it more interesting, especially if you got the crown.
Yeah, I mean, the counter to that is that it lets other things through, so that you could play more of the heroes you want, or you just focus on the draft and how that, you just get what you need.
So Mystic, you don't think she should be banned? Sorry, not banned. You don't think she should be nerfed at all? You think she's in a good place then? You just think it's a matter of people adjusting still? Because, I mean, Blizzard's going to see these numbers. They're going to see the ban numbers, and they're going to be like, yeah, there's something that needs to be addressed here. And they're going to have to make some sort of change unless this changes organically, and I can't see this changing organically over time.
I don't know. I think she's honestly in a good place. If you want to nerf something, I mean, you can nerf her Q some more if you want, or maybe nerf the damage on her W. Maybe it doesn't need to do that much damage, but I think she really does really good in what she's designed to do. Like, she goes in there, she pulls, and maybe something that could use a nerf is her vault, because that is a little strong, but that's just me nitpicking at this point, in my opinion. So I don't know. I think she's in a pretty good spot.
That's a good little wrap up for that one, and we'll move on to the next topic. Thrall needs nerfing. Go figure. We just talked about one OP character, and we're moving right on to the next one. Thrall has sneakily climbed up the ladder. I know I say sneakily, but a lot of people have been saying for a while now that Thrall is pretty strong, but now it's starting to show in the numbers. His win rate is pretty high. It's second only to Sonya currently, 54.7% last time I checked hot slugs. What the hell happened here? He got 20% bounce increase to his Q. Then all of a sudden, he seems to be in everybody's games and topping damage and doing really well here. Mystic, let's start with you on the ball here.
I mean, so when I first saw that change, I was like, this is going to break Crash Lightning. Because literally the only thing that was keeping Crash Lightning in check was the bounce range. Like, you throw it out and you'd be like, okay, you have to actually be like throwing out your chain lightnings in specific locations, and you're like, okay, I have to plan this out and see, like, okay, what are the chances that it bounces here and here? And I mean, that was cool, because if you got it off, then you got the Crash Lightning stacks, and it was actually pretty good. Because at 20 stacks, then you can just bounce it wherever, and it did pretty good damage. But with this, it's like, you just throw it in there, and more likely than not, you're going to get a stack. And that, I think Crash Lightning was designed around the low bounce range, but now with the new bounce range, it's like, do I really need to put any effort into actually getting all this damage on Crash Lightning? Not really. So it also makes counterplay a little bit harder, because the bounce range is so large. And so teams have to spread out a lot more if they don't want to stack Thrall's Crash Lightning. And yeah, that just makes it a lot tougher for you to like counterplay that. And Thrall is just getting up to like, I don't know, 30, 40 stacks, and it's just destroying teams.
This reminds me of Greymane's Cocktail, but it's a little easier to hit because you don't have to make sure people are behind your target, right? It's really good poke damage, and like I said, this just Thrall is starting to remind me of Greymane play in the fact that he's got a lot of poke with his lightning, but he can also come in with a good engage too with his wolves, and then his Wind Fury. He can come in pretty hard hitting and lock down a target pretty well. So he seems to me kind of like the new Greymane, at least for like the level that I'm playing at. I'm seeing him fulfill a similar role. Where have you been seeing him, Roz? And are you seeing as crazy OP Thralls as around the Nexus as I have?
I mean, he's strong. I saw him in just about every game today. I played about 20 games today in Hero League, and he was in just about every one. I will say some of my favorite metas have always been when Thrall was popular. I like what he offers to compositions, and as a bruiser that can get in there and heal himself, and you don't necessarily have to worry about him as a healer. I like what he offers, and I think he's made the drafts really interesting the past couple days. So I'm okay. I think Crash Lightning doesn't have a cap on it, does it? It can just go forever.
No, it goes up to 40 stacks, which is still quite insane, but
it's pretty.
Yeah,
high.
they might consider changing that, especially since it's so easy now. But I think the change was necessary, but now they just got to tweak the numbers back a little bit. But I do like that he's in the meta now because, like I said, he changes the drafts in a very interesting way. He can be a solo laner, but now that you kind of treat him like Alarak now, where he needs to be in the 4-man, which is a pretty interesting dynamic. Having either a main tank and then dedicated solo laner, and then also Thrall, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, and I mean, because we've got Maiev and Sonya that are receiving a lot of ban attention, like you said, Thrall's slipping through the cracks. It's almost always like the third most OP character that you see a lot more of in your games because there aren't 3 bans off the top. There's only 2. So it's a little bit easier to actually see them in the games. I love, like you said, Roz, I love playing Thrall. He's one of my favorite characters to play, and I love having him in the meta because I can feel like I can play him and not have to worry about dragging the team down, or at least perceptively so, because he's a bad pick like he was prior to just a few weeks ago even. Do we think he's going to get some nerfs probably to Crash Lightning? I imagine that's probably the spot. It's over 80% pick rate, and the win rate's really skewed if you take Crash Lightning as well. Maybe that's just the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they should
Job's
either
done.
nerf the Crash Lightning damage a little bit or dial back the bounce range a little bit. It doesn't need to be like before range, but just a little.
All right. Well, that's it for that topic. Next, we're going on to Bacon's Support Woes. So a little context for this one. Bacon from the Gankbush squad, we put a little call out, say, we're looking for topics, and Bacon was like, why don't you talk about if you can support main your way through Hero League and climb effectively. If you look at the top Grandmasters, the vast majority of them play assassins and some tanks, but mostly assassins to get to Grandmaster level. That's where their most played heroes are, which begs to ask the question, if you want to do well in Hero League and carry or climb, should you be playing assassins and not healers? Are healers not the place to be? Can you healer main and get up there in Hero League, or do you need to be able to flex and pull yourself through and carry yourself as an assassin or even as a tank or an off tank? Mystic, we can start. Oh, actually, you know what? No, Roz played 20 games today. Let's talk to Roz first. Roz, first off, what do you usually play in Hero League?
I try to play the heroes that I know I can make an impact on.
And are those healers?
A lot of them are healers. Lucio, Rhaegar, healers that give me a very big band-aid for silly behavior on my team. Like if I can speed boost out and get the team out of a bad position, or sound barrier because someone is overcommitting, I have to be the mama of the team and communicate. I think you can carry on a healer, but only if you're the type of person that is vocal about your cooldowns and you're constantly pinging. If I just use sound barrier, my team will forget that I just casted sound barrier, and then they'll run back in, and I have to say, stop it. I don't have it for another 50 seconds. Let's wait. Let's go do something else. It's okay. And you just have to be upfront with what you are capable of providing to your team. And if you can't, just say, let's go do something else. So for me, it is a lot of support characters or off lane characters.
So Roz, you've successfully healed stupid then. Is that what you've been doing?
I don't know about that. 60% of the time I have healed stupid. The other 40%, that's just too much.
So you think you can carry, do you think you could get, if let's say you were a GM level player, do you think you could get to GM or carry a team as a support then?
Well, I mean, all those people that are in GM, somebody had to play healer in those games. Like, they didn't just play those games with all assassins. You do have to have somebody who's competent in doing that. I think whoever's right for those roles needs to be on those roles. And if you're the kind of person who, you can play Rhaegar, but maybe someone else on your team should play Rhaegar, then they should play Rhaegar. Every time I queue in, I view the profile of everybody on my team, and then I fill in what they cannot do. Because I know I'm pretty comfortable at doing just about anything. And most of the time, most people are not wanting to be a healer.
I think I think it's very the burden of execution on like carrying as supports is like really really high, because in order to carry as supports you need to be able to do stuff at a very very high level if you want to be the carrying factor as your team. But supports, they kind of just mitigate mistakes. So if someone on your team is like really really good, like they're playing an assassin, they're doing very very well, if you mitigate the few mistakes that they make, then it just makes it so that they carry the game. So technically, like, you're not carrying the game, but you're enabling somebody else to carry the game. And I think that's a really big part of like why assassins are very high up there, because they have a really easy time to carry the game, whereas supports you have to play at a much higher level to be the factor carrying the game.
But also, I'd argue too, if you're better than the average support player at whatever league you're currently in Hero League, you're going to have an above 50% win rate. And you've got 4 unknowns on your team and players that you don't know, and then 5 on the other team. So you're controlling, that extra 20% on your side. So if you have a better win rate, or you're better than everyone else in your league at supporting, you will climb. And like the better that you are, the faster you'll climb. And I don't think that changes depending on what position you're playing. It might not be as obvious, like we're all saying here. If you're the assassin, you're getting all those kills. Like maybe the reason you're getting all those kills and you're carrying the team is because, like Mystic said, the healer is the one who's enabling that player. Like you're getting the divine shields at the right time. That ancestral just stopped you from dying, enabling you to get another couple kills or mop up because it was so well timed in that.
Job's done.
Okay, continuing on with Hero League, we're going to talk about toxic cleanup in Isle Hero League. Now that we've got voice comms in the game, and they're a lot more prevalent, it feels like most Hero League games, at least that I've been having, have had a very high percentage participation in voice comms. And one thing I've always harped on, if you watch the show for any length of time, I've always hated Hero League because of the toxicity. I don't want to go in, spend my free recreation time in a toxic environment. It doesn't even matter if it's targeted to me. It's just if mud keeps getting slung around, I don't want to be in that environment where I feel like I'm wasting that 30 minutes or whatever it is that I'm playing. However, now that we got voice comms, the general consensus is that it's a lot harder for that toxicity to kind of creep forth or surface, because everyone, I guess, is a little bit more nervous of actually confronting someone when they're vocally there in the game as well. So first off, have you guys been seeing this dip in toxicity in Hero League? And conversely, in QM, I feel like where no one is in voice comms, I feel like toxicity's almost gotten worse. What do you think, Roz? Because you've been doing a lot more Hero League than us, I think, recently.
The games that go well for me are where people are talking in the draft screen, and sometimes you have to be the initiator. A lot of people will, at least at the area that I'm in right now, they'll go in and they'll turn on voice comms and they'll just kind of sit there. Well, I'm not going to be the first one to talk, and then 5 minutes go by and nobody talks, and then the first death from being out of position happens, and then suddenly people are typing in the chat, and complaining. So like in the chat screen, you got to be the one to step up and say, "Hey guys, how's it going? Hey, hover your picks. Let's see what we all want to do," and and maybe tell a joke. Someone started talking in a Mario voice today, and it got everybody laughing, and we were in good mood for the entire game. I did see a few racial slurs today come out, and it was really awkward, and everybody reported him, so that was good. But yeah, I think the toxicity has gone down a little bit, and the game's are a little bit more pleasant as long as people are actually using the tool the way that it's intended. The games that don't go well, people are just sitting there and being quiet, and then 10 minutes go by, and then suddenly we're losing. So
yeah, and it's too bad you can't know how many people in the other team are in voice chat too, because that it'd be really great to see if we could find a statistic where it'd show you what the win rate is based on voice comms participation. Because even like the games that I've had so far, where it's just like me and one other dude in voice comms than no one else, it feels like a bit of a broken team dynamic, like because you're talking to one guy, but the rest of the team isn't hearing it. But I feel like whenever you have those 5 people in there chatting and being engaging, like Roz is saying, like the games just seem to go so well. You might not win them, but I feel like you're giving yourselves a better chance of winning them by using that tool effectively. And like I said, I wish we could get statistics of this, because I guarantee it'd be a lot higher for games where you have 5 people with active mics, and just seeing how much that affects everyone's win rate.
And I like where this is going. You know, everybody's being positive and talking on Here League. I think this is a really good direction for the game to be going, and it's something that I've never had when I was playing like a lot of League of Legends and upping my skill then, because back then there's just like regular chat, and it was like, well, you have to learn to read the movements of your allies and your enemies so you can know what they're about to do when your enemy is about to do and all that stuff. Here, you could just say, okay, I'm coming in like 3 seconds, and just engage by then, and we'll be good, and you get a kill. And I think this is really good, as long as it keeps going in this direction where there's not as much toxicity, or the voice chat system combats toxicity. That is really good in my book.
Roz, even you were saying too about being a healer and trying to do your best to carry by communicating your cooldowns. I had a Lucio in one of my games who would constantly be saying like, "Okay, heal's coming now," or "Big heal in 3" or whatever, and those. You can tell in game if you're paying attention to it, but it's so much easier if you use an extra sense in your hearing, just to like have that communication communicated to you, so you don't have to pay as much attention to exactly what Lucio is doing in the game, like visually, because you can actually hear it from the person who's going to be putting out the healing, or like at least you know when to expect it because of that. So even just something as simple as that seems to make life so much better, and it reminds me almost of playing in chair league. Like you get that communication. Maybe it's not as good as in like a team of 5 where you know everybody, but still at least you get that communication rolling. Okay. This one is probably something that no one other than me really wants to talk about. But you know what? I'm the one who writes the show notes, so I get to put it in here anyways. It's Look Who's Brawling. Now, the Brawl as a game mode. I played a Brawl earlier today during lunch. I queued up. The queue was a few minutes long, and lo and behold, the matchmaker does its thing. Game starts. It's me on one side with 4 AIs, and another dude on the other side with 4 AIs. This makes me think, okay, maybe the population of Brawl isn't that great, and it also led me to think, hey, maybe this is a game mode that we shouldn't necessarily have. I know it's more like for fun. There's not as much like matchmaking involved. It's kind of like my guilty pleasure when I want to go stop noobs. I go into Mage Wars, and I did that with Mystic yesterday. We went with 2 higher level players, and we just rolled over them. It was kind of fun. But is this a relevant game mode? It seems like people just kind of go in, maybe even get their loot chest. A lot of people don't even bother because it just takes too long. They want to spend their game time on more serious game modes. But also then there's the other argument too, like a lot of people play AI or more casually. Maybe this is the place for them. What do you think, Mystic?
Yeah, when I got dragged into that game yesterday, I went in with no expectation. I was like, well, we could get rolled, they could get rolled, who knows? And so we went in there. I was actually like kind of surprised at the skill level there, because Dad said it was, for casual people just playing the game, but I was like, interesting. Because there were times where I threw up my skill shot, like expecting them to use their movement ability to dodge it, and I just completely missed because they just kept running in a single direction. I was like, huh, well, maybe I shouldn't have, thrown it that way. But for me, the reason that I don't play these game modes is for that exact reason, because people don't punish you for doing like certain things. So if you play this game mode like too much and you get too used to that, then you're not going to be able to like react when you're actually up against someone of higher skill level. And that's mainly the reason why I don't play this game mode. So,
how about you, Roz? You play Brawls at all?
Not really. I kind of forget it's in the game, to be honest. I played it a lot when the mode first came out, and my team would like cap the night by playing a few Brawls to get our weekly loot chests and stuff like that. But It's fun. If I'm going to do random game modes, I might as well be in Creators of the Storm.
Haha, hey, I noticed you're wearing a Creators of the Storm t-shirt today as well, too.
Damn.
So thanks for supporting this with the swag that you got from the website. If you're looking for Creators of the Storm swag, you can also go to trolls.gg/COTS, by the way.
Shameless.
Yeah, shameless mid-episode plug. So the one thing that has come up before, and I remember this came into question when Unranked came in. I mean, thank God Unranked's there, because just having QM and Hero League, I think there was a gaping hole there. But is if the player base can support extra game modes, because you get in a situation like mine. Okay, now we've got QM, AI, Hero League, Team League, and Brawl. If you've got a game mode that's less supported, it's going to either be longer matchmakers. You've got to loosen the matchmaking rules, making worse matches, or you get these like really wacky games because you end up having 4 AIs on your team. Like, are we spreading ourselves too thin by having Brawl, or is it a good place for that experimentation and everything? Like, is there still a place here, even though you don't play it, Roz? Like, do you like it being there?
I like it being there. It did good things for Hearthstone, which is kind of where they got it from, and then it made its way over to Overwatch. So I think it's good for the game. I was hoping that they would use the mode kind of like what you were saying, in a more, hey, let's see what fits, and let's just experiment and try new things, and maybe incorporate those ideas into the real game. They kind of just use it as a meaningless fun time, which is okay too, I guess. But there should be a game mode where, if you've had a rough day, and you don't want to deal with the high commitment nature of every other game mode, Brawl is good for that, and for the psychological health of our community.
Yeah, and like you see when you play in Brawl, I think it's a lot of players that are probably newer to the game, just want to try out maybe some new heroes they don't own or whatever, and just jump into a wacky mode. It's a nice place for those players as well. And there are a lot of players, I mean, we can often forget about it because we're usually hanging in Unranked and Hero League, that there are people that play like, AI consistently, and that's like their game mode of choice, and there's nothing wrong with that at all, right? So Brawl can be that comfort zone for people other than me looking to just have fun as opposed to just stomp on noobs. Okay, final topic today, Blizzard you Tease. Now, there was a tweet that went out today, and it's not even confirmed, but there's speculation that because we know that the new hero reveal is coming any day now, maybe even any minute now, that this tweet that they put out about the StarCraft's 20th anniversary from the Heroes Twitter account, that there is some sort of tease hinting here about who the next hero is going to be. We've got a link to it in the show notes, but you can check it out on Blizz Heroes page there. If you take a look at it, the background, I think, is where people think the hint is, because it's a StarCraft 20-year anniversary crest in the front, but in the background, it's this kind of like golden building. And I've seen a lot of people speculate that this is probably means it's going to be Phoenix, something along those lines. Mystic, you're a resident StarCraft guy. What are we looking at here, and who, like, is this a hint, or do you think this is just like a random StarCraft background?
Well, it could be a random StarCraft background, and it could be just something that's in a what is it? A cutscene or a cinematic or something that they make. Who knows? But I'm gonna look at it and say it could be like the hero itself. If you just remove the the StarCraft 20th anniversary thing, then it might actually be the hero. But so I've looked at it, and so what we know so far really is that it's a Protoss hero, most likely. And so if you look at the armor itself, like the very goldenish design is like what the Protoss call like Kalai, basically. And that's not like Alarak, that's not Zeratul, any of that stuff. Zeratul's like from Shakuras, he's Dark Templar. And so Ire is basically, it's a Protoss homeworld. It's the Protoss homeworld, and it's where like all this Kalai design came from. And it's where units like the original Zealot, the Dragoons, the Colossus, Immortals, and the Carrier all originated from. Then like they have that sort of design. So anything that kind of looks like that goldenish color to simplify things, then that is basically where we're looking at right now. And Phoenix, like in the game of StarCraft 2, he was a purifier, and that was more white. So this could potentially be Phoenix, but he could be in his Dragoon like form where he was before they made him into the purifier like form over there. So it could be a bunch of different heroes. It could be a bunch of different units. I don't think they said that it was going to be a super known hero. So it could be any of those.
Probius's brother, maybe.
I don't know about that.
Some other heroes that have been speculated upon, if you go to the Reddit thread, the top upvoted comment has Phoenix, Slendis, Aldaris, Rohana, and Karax as ideas. Any of those fit the bill? Or, I mean, Phoenix is obviously the one that's the most sought after, or at least most talked about. But any of those other four, maybe you'd like to see, or you think that would find a good place in heroes?
I mean, yeah, I'm up for like any StarCraft hero, especially Protoss, and all of those would indeed fit the bill. But yeah, I'd really like to see something like really innovative, like Slendis, maybe a carrier or something. I think that would be really cool as a unit in the game. I don't know how they would do that really, but it would be really cool if they found a way to.
What do you think, Roz? Is this a teaser, or is it just a random background they grabbed from their asset collection?
I'm leaning more towards random background. However, if they're going to announce a hero, I'd imagine it would be during the Eastern Clash, and StarCraft was basically like a massive phenomenon in the region where the Eastern Clash is taking place. So it would be relevant to the people who were watching it at the time. So maybe I think that'd be good. Whenever I see these Blizzard tweets, I almost immediately ignore the tweet and go straight to the comments section, because that's where all the real action is happening. Like, I love all the responses on this Twitter thread.
Well, the thing is, we've been told, at least not official sources, but from a lot of different news outlets, that it's going to be a StarCraft character. Blizzard said that they're going to be teasing the hero, at least telling us more information about it this week, too. I feel like a lot of things point to this potentially being a hint, and we've seen a lot of these type of hint drops in the past, with Malthael and other characters as well. So I would be very surprised if this wasn't some sort of hint. So, Mystic, I think you may be getting your Protoss any day now. Okay, so that is wrapping up the Trolling the Nexus segment. But that being said, that means we move on to the final segment of the show, Mystic's Shakedown.
Mystic, I require service of you. I come to you as a friend, asking you to shake down this situation for me.
So, Mystic, what are we shaking down this week?
All right, so my topic for this week is adaptive learning. So everything that you learn is from an experience usually, right? So you go into a game, you get flamed, and you're learning, I don't want to play with that player ever again. So you report him and pray to Blizzard that he never sees the face of that game again. And so when you go into the game, everything that you learn just from like every skill shot that you make, all the damage that you take from other heroes, and like how your allies are doing, you have to learn all of that. You have to kind of just take it. So every time you die, for example, you can learn from it, right? So let's just say you die to the enemy team like ganking you, right? So if you die from that, you underestimated the enemy team's ability to rotate. And so you want to just take that into account and make sure it never happens again. So because you're learning all this, you want to implement it as well. You can't just say like, so it looks like they ganked me and, I don't want to die, so I don't want to be ganked again. You can't just say that and just expect it to happen, right? You have to actually change up a little bit your play style to make sure that it's implemented. Like, go into the lane, you look at the mini-map, like instead of every 3 seconds, you could do it every 2 seconds now to make sure, hey, they're missing from the map, I better move. And so you make sure something like that, you can't get ganked again. So something that's really, really important, I think, for for players is how fast you adapt. Like, for example, let's just say you're playing Genji, you E into the enemy team, and as soon as you do that, Polybomb comes out, Diablo slams you into the wall, and you get like Uther Divine Stormed or something. Now, when you go into that, you know now, well, you're probably dead at this point, but you know now that they are willing to invest that many resources into you. But you also know that as long as you don't E in, then they will save those resources. So if you skirt the edge of the team fight, you know that Diablo's probably saving his Q, Maieve's probably saving his Polybomb, and Uther's saving his Divine Storm, specifically for you, the Genji player. And so you skirt the outside of the fight, and you just watch for those. You go, all right, as long as I sit back here and just deal range damage, they will not use it. And more likely than not, when your team goes in and they fight and they're not using their resources, they will start losing because that's a lot of resources just to commit to one person. And as soon as they use those resources, or maybe even 2 out of the 3 of those resources, you go in. And then they go, oh, shoot, we should have saved those resources for Genji. And, you mop them up, and it's an endless cycle. They either choose to save their resources or not. If they save their resources, you don't have to go in. If they choose not to save those resources, then you can go in and mess them up. Now, something like that is like kind of simplistic. If your team is getting constantly comboed, there's not too much you can do to adapt to that. Like, you can register, hey, we're getting comboed. The only way that we can prevent ourselves from getting comboed is to either not get caught or have the specific ultimates timed at a certain time to make sure that we can fight through the combo. And see, that's the counterplay that takes a little bit longer to implement if you're not like in a team environment where everybody's on the same page, where voice chat actually really helps out with that. So think about like what can be implemented, not only that, but how fast can it be implemented as well. Like, even if you know like this is what should happen for your team to counterplay the enemy team's combo, it's not going to always be able to be pulled off like every single time.
Yeah, I'm an old dog. It's hard to teach me new tricks. That's one of the reasons I'm a horrible Genji. But yeah, I fully wholeheartedly agree. I remember the moment when it kind of clicked when I was playing Genji a lot a few weeks ago. Be like, you stay around, you kind of realize that the reason I'm dying a lot is because, going in while everything's on cooldown. But sometimes it's hard to keep track of that, especially if you're an old dog like me, and it's a little bit harder to keep track of the cooldowns of the enemy team as well as the cooldowns of your team, and trying to like put all that together and still make the plays as well. But definitely great advice as per always, Mystic. Okay, well, I think this is where we're going to close off the show. Before we do, we always like to thank our chieftain, Super Dave, for pledging to support the Trolls. You can also become a chieftain as well by heading over to patreon.com/trollsgg and supporting us there. If you support us at a high enough tier, you will get a shout out as a chieftain at the end of every show. Not only this show, but Troll and HGC as well. Thanks everyone for listening to the Nexus Trolls, a podcast about Heroes of the Storm, where we stream live on this Twitch channel, twitch.tv/trollsgg, every week on Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Roz, if someone was trying to find you and they didn't know how to on the internet, how would they get a hold of you, or how would they follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Rozai Hots. You can also find my articles for the Trolls GG network on trolls.gg.
You working on any new articles?
It's been a little busy here past few weeks with my real life job. So probably after this weekend, I'll get back into the swing of things.
What about any guides? Do you have any guides in the oven baking?
Yeah, I've got an Alarak guide coming soon.
Well, I could use that.
And Karzim.
Yeah, Alarak is notoriously difficult to play too. He's one of those heroes I'd love to get much better at, but I know it'll take a long time to get that past that skill floor and closer to the skill ceiling for that hero. How about you, Mystic? Where can people find you?
You can find me at Mystic Shroud on Twitter.
You can find me at DazHots on Twitter. And if you're looking for LiQuiud, who should be returning next week, he's had a family issue come up, you can find him at LiQuiudGG. That's LiQiuD He's probably the most active of at least me and Mystic on Twitter, that's for sure. He's very active there, so if you're going to follow anyone, definitely give LiQuid a follow. You can also subscribe to our show on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you happen to find your podcasts online. You can also visit our website, trolls.gg/TheNexusTrolls, to watch this and past shows, along with video streams, which can also be found on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/TrollsGG. For announcements about this show and general Heroes of the Storm news, you can also follow us on Twitter at TheNexusTrolls or the Trolls GG Network at @TrollsGG. And if you want to hang out with us in the Trolls community in-game, you can /join Trolls GG in-game or join our Discord channel. Information for that can be found at trolls.gg/Discord. A lot of great chatter there always. And finally, if you need to get in touch with us, the best way is by email at thenexustrolls@trolls.gg. Mystic and Roz, thanks for hosting with me. Everybody, thanks for listening. Have a great week.
'Cause I'm TNT, I'm dynamite. TNT.